In our last video, we ended with the computer basically doing some editing for us with the power of Photoshop Actions and the droplet that we built out. Now, I had said in that video it'd probably take an hour or two. I grossly underestimated that. As you can see here from the date modified on this time here, it started around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it's well after 9 o'clock now, but it looks like it finished right around 9 o'clock. So about 7 hours roughly. Maybe I need to get a faster computer. But you can see it took quite a bit of time. But I didn't have to use my computer for that. All I had to do was just let it sit here and crunch because of the way that we set up that action. And I love being able to do that where I can get this base layer of editing done without ever really having to touch the computer. I know now I can come in and tweak it and customize it even more and do some fine-tune edits, but getting that base layer across all of the photos is something that would take me a lot more time to do if I was doing it manually. But so it took a little bit of time to set up that action, but I'm happy with that I don't have to actually touch that for those few hours. All right, so let's filter out back in Capture One. I'm going to filter out the TIFF files, which are the ones that we had edited. And now it's a process of coming into these and really kind of touching each one of these manually. So this can be, again, a time-consuming process, but we'll go through. Let's pick out 5. Let's do 5 at a time. We'll do that. So we'll open these up inside of Photoshop. And, okay, this happens sometimes, I've noticed. We'll see if Photoshop works with this. This might be because I reinstalled and such. It lost the file type associations. So we'll see. We can open these up. If not, then it's no big deal. Another way that we could do this to work around it is to simply open them up from the Explorer window there. But we'll open these up. I'm going to go ahead. While this opens, these are just going to open the images, but I won't make you wait for that. I'll go ahead and pause the video while these open up. Okay, yeah, so you can see it opened up one image, but it didn't open up all the ones that we had selected, right? So that is an issue that has to do with file type associations. So just to get these done, let's go in here and let's do this. We'll do our modify. Let's come down to this and we'll open up. I'll go ahead and close this one. And then we will open up 5 at a time. So if we open up here, you can see it's going to open up fine. It has to do with the file type association between Capture One and Photoshop. But it is something that I've noticed before, and I've spent hours trying to troubleshoot that. And then it just breaks again once there's a new version that gets installed. So it seems like there's some sort of a bug going on there. And my workaround basically is what I've just done right here to open them up from the file. So again, I'm going to pause the video while these open and then come back once those 5 images are open. All right, so we've got these open here, and now we can come in and start to do some cleanup. So things like you can see there's a bruise here. There's something that she had mentioned that she wanted to get cleaned up. There we go. So pretty easy fixes and cleanup for things like that. I'm going to come in here, maybe clean up some stuff that might be distracting in the background. It's not real hard to do. I'm just using the heal tool. But it just can be time consuming. If you remember this from earlier, a little bird up there in the sky. Clean some of this stuff up. And since we already have that, these are just rocks. So it's not really a big deal, but any of the bigger ones, I want it to look very minimal. Even stuff like this, so like the colors, the white contrast, and a little bit distracting, a little bit too distracting for me. So I'm just going to clean some of that up. Really minimal stuff, but pretty simple process. Make sure there's nothing on her here that might need to be cleaned up. Maybe some little bit here, a little bit here. Go. Pretty simple and straightforward edits. Again, I'm just using the spot healing brush, so Really nothing complex about it, but just a matter of coming in here. And unfortunately, you know, this is one of those things that there's really no workaround other than just taking the time to come in and do it. So once we have that and we're happy with it, we can go ahead and save this and then move on to the next one. And it's the same sort of process. So for this is on the other side. It doesn't look like there's a bruise there. We're good. I am going to clean up some of this in the background. Just it's a little bit distracting. Those are some logs and trees in the background there that just a little bit distracting. As well as, so we could clean some of this up here too. Let's try that. I'm going to try it on a new layer just to see. And let's come into our patch tool here and maybe clean some of this up. See how that looks. Not a big fan of that. You lose a lot of that texture there. So let's come in. Actually, you know what? As I'm doing this, so I'm on my computer right now, but oops. I want to switch to my healing brush. I might actually switch over to my Cintiq because it's easier to paint than I'm using my mouse right now. There we go. I'm not going to clean them all up, but just some of the big ones, just because they're a little distracting to me. There we go. Pretty simple process. It's just a matter of coming in and doing it. So before and after. And really, you know, for a lot of this stuff, when you just see this photo, you're obviously not going to know that stuff was there. But something else I like to do sometimes too, especially for natural things like this, which is why I did a new layer, is I'll come in here and clean this up and then adjust the opacity layer so we can still see that the original stuff is there. It's just not as heavy, and then you don't see a lot of this generated pixels here. You can take the time to fix a lot of that, but when you're working with hundreds of pictures, that can get really time consuming, right? So we do a quick edit and then honestly bring some of that back, and then you get kind of a merge between the two. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second once I get this little bit done. We'll see if that works. Again, every situation is a little bit different, so it doesn't always work, but that is a go-to that I do a lot. So let's change the opacity here. So you can see, okay, it's still there, but it's not nearly as big or as intense. And if you do too much, then it's obvious. But we can just minimize some of that distraction there. Let's go with something like 50%. Okay. All right. So that's good. On to the next one. And basically the same sort of process here. So clean some of this up. Yeah, I'm definitely going to switch to my Cintiq for the next video here pretty soon. Once I get these edited, then we'll switch a new video, and I'll switch to my Cintiq because I'm working with my mouse here, and it's pretty tough. Let's create a new layer here since we're doing some of these. A little bit bigger just to get some bigger spots. And paint this in. So what I'm doing, I'm holding on Alt, it's Option on a Mac, and selecting my point. And I try to change it around a lot, right? So it's not just from one point. You notice I'm sampling a lot of different areas, in a lot of different times. That way it's not always from the same place. I'm generating pixels that look different because you're going to get some variation, even in something that is as minimalistic and, for lack of a better word, monotonous as, sand in a desert. There's still variation, especially when you're this close. You got this much detail. And a lot of that can be more obvious if you don't sample from a lot of different areas. So let's bring this down probably somewhere around 50 again. Just so it's not as distracting, right? So just basically bringing the contrast down on it so it's not quite as noticeable. Not getting rid of it completely, but just softening it up a little bit. All right, so let's do this. No bird in the sky. Some of these. So this is a different location or different thing. Let's find that bruise. Clean that up. Go. Go. Okay. And really so I'm not a big fan of body modification, things like that you can do in Photoshop. But when there are bumps and bruises and things like that sort of stuff happens, and that's not normal. So cleaning that up is definitely something that I'll do as long as the client is okay with that. And that's something, I have a conversation with them, make sure that they're okay with cleaning that up. In this case, I happen to know, she got a bruise on her leg there that was unintentional, but, we all get bumps and bruises and it happens. And then you go do a photo shoot and it's a pretty easy thing to clean up, but it never hurts to verify just to make sure. I know in this case, of course, it was a bruise, but if it's somebody that you're working with that's, new and you don't know, maybe it's a birthmark. I've definitely had clients before where they have birthmarks that you don't want to remove because it's a birthmark and something that they're proud of and something that they love about themselves, and that's fantastic. You don't want to remove that thinking it's a temporary bruise or blemish or something. So when I'm working, especially if I'm working with new clients, somebody I've never worked with before, just being honest and be like, hey, what are the things that you want me to clean up and what are the things you don't want me to clean up, to make sure that I don't remove things that you don't want, and never hurts to ask. Go. Cleaning all this up. And then we'll just bring it back just a little bit just to soften that, somewhere around 50%. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is saved. We're going to start with the next 5 once these are done saving. But I am going to stop the video here, switch over to my Cintiq. It's a little bit easier to use that than a mouse, to use the pen there. So go ahead and stop this video, and I'll see you in the next one on the Cintiq as we continue editing.